We can't answer the door right now, but you can leave a message. Would you like to leave a message? What would you say? I bet you'd say that you were happy here once. You were young. In love. You were politely told to go away here by the only person to answer. You wonder if the weekend might be better, and whether or not you were at your happiest here.
Hello?
The buskers drove you crazy here. The man playing the saw first thing in the morning especially. You adored the sound of scraped cutlery on plates and laughter seeping through the walls from the restaurant next door here. When the owner asked if you used to own the house, you felt a pang of anguish and said no. Feeling like a child. A failure. You will never be able to afford to buy anywhere. Thinking over your request to film the door closing, the person who answered here asked if this was for some kind of closure, and you answered, "Well, I don't really know." You left wondering about this, whether or not you live in the past.
The poor image is a copy in motion. Its quality is bad, its resolution substandard. As it accelerates, it deteriorates. These are not beautiful high-resolution photographs. They are film stills from quickly taken seconds-long film so as not to bother people unnecessarily. At worst, or so I feared, to capture the door closing abruptly as if I were a doorstep salesman or selling religion. Though this is yet to happen. With more time and interest, I pulled the tripod from my bag and explained the project. I found that I had to work very hard when speaking into any intercom and to always cut straight to the most interesting part. I used to live here. I was conscious of my physicality, the way I looked, the way I sounded, the tone and manner of my speech. More than once, the door opened once more for the person behind it to ask if they had closed the door okay. Should it be quicker or slower? Do you want me in it or not? The project is a collaboration of sorts, and it was interesting to see the conscious effort put into a mostly unconscious act, based more perhaps on sound over any visual inspection. The sound of each door closing felt as important as any visual documentation. To be listening is to be at the same time outside and inside. The wider sound of each environment felt important also, but less direct somehow, changeable, slippery.
For example, no automated doorbell existentialism followed me around. No seagulls. Frustrated knocking. Backfiring motorbike. Busker. Or barking dog. Though there was a cat.
Poor images are thus popular images, images that can be made and seen by the many. They express all the contradictions of the contemporary crowd, its opportunism, narcissism, desire for autonomy and creation, its inability to focus or make up its mind, its constant readiness for transgression and simultaneous submission. Altogether, poor images present a snapshot of the affective condition of the crowd, its neurosis, paranoia and fear, as well as its craving for intensity, fun and distraction. Interested in domesticity, time, memory and aspects of auto theory and experimental ethnography, as explored by artists such as Chantal Akerman, whose films were described as
intense personal hybrids of fiction and non-fiction, frequently choosing herself as subject.
With works such as Dist, featuring a continuous montage of images and sounds of everyday life in Germany, Poland and Russia, privileging the personal over the national or the political. A no-home movie using simple technology like a mobile phone camera and video telephony.
The dual portrait of mother and daughter, of lives unmoored, by accident or by design, bears the solitude and the mourning implicit in Akerman's do-it-yourself style.
And Adrian Piper, who isolated herself to read Kant's critique of pure reason in the piece Food for the Spirit, whilst fasting and doing yoga, which could be viewed as an extreme act of self-care. Losing herself in the profundity of Kant's thought, Piper would go to the mirror to peer at herself to make sure she was still there, recording these attempts to anchor herself through photography whilst reading passages aloud on a tape recorder. I am currently pursuing a more dematerialised practice to save space and money. As with another ongoing project, looking at the lives of others through the mundane, which crosses the threshold to enter strangers' homes with an offer to physically wash up on their behalf. So far taken in large and small families, single parent and single occupancy homes, a nursery, a commune, a residential home and a prison. Back on the outside, the ongoing Door project uses place and location as material, weaving autobiography and memoir in an attempt to remind myself of how I arrived in the present, to anchor myself in the present to the geography of place.
The past only comes back when the present runs so smoothly that it is like the sliding surface of a deep river. Then one sees through the surface to the depths. In those moments I find one of my greatest satisfactions, not that I am thinking of the past, but that it is then that I am living most fully in the present. For the present when backed by the past is 1,000 times deeper than the present when it is pressed so close that you can feel nothing else, when the film on the camera reaches only the eye. But to feel the present sliding over the depths of the past, peace is necessary. The present must be smooth, habitual. For this reason that it destroys the fullness of life, any break like that of house moving causes me extreme distress. It breaks, it shallows, it turns the depth into hard thin splinters.
But there's an obvious problem here. How to sustain any of this? How to afford it? How to find the balance between paid work and producing artwork? My dad, self-employed, who works 7 days a week most of his adult life to make the present smooth for his large family, simply couldn't say the word artist without adding the prefix piss. The very idea of withdrawing from the world for a period of time to reflect or to find the peace required to look back was a luxury he couldn't afford. I am the same age now as my dad here, whose job was so agonisingly hard. The BBC made a documentary about him and his gang in 1997.
People paint them differently, but most people will paint the arms and the boxes on the way up, because, as I say, it's just straightforward. The two legs then, if you're doing half a tower. If you've got the arms and boxes, then you just come straight down the legs then.
Well, mainly the things you've got to learn is where to paint and where not to paint as you're climbing over the tower. If you paint yourself out, it means you've got to climb over wet paint, which is quite dangerous.
I've kept envelopes bearing my name at every place I've lived as an adult apart from one, and I'm not sure of this address of almost 30 years ago, though there is an envelope addressed to the pub where I worked, not far from the apartment. With 3 more doors to go until completion, how to resolve this? How to resolve any of this? Creatively, of course, and with resolve, by staying with the trouble, by continuing to live simply, by reaching out and trying something different, by setting up a temporary gallery space at home. I don't own a car or fly anywhere.
Though in truth you would do this if you could.
I haven't bought a mobile phone in over a decade as I use phones others no longer use. I don't subscribe to Netflix or Sky, and the inexpensive camera I'm using for this project I was given as a gift. I purposely took a job with varying shift patterns to allow concentration into the night here and there. My studio is my dining room table, and I feel lucky to have that. I take public transport anywhere I can't cycle, and I walk everywhere else. It may take me slightly longer, as with the current door project, which began in earnest in 2023, with an untraceable gestation going back further in the mind. But within these limits of constraint, a more powerful statement can be made.